David Bomba, you joined Ozark in season three as its new production designer. I understand you had some initial reservations about joining an established show. So, what finally got you on board?
I wanted to work with Jason Bateman, and that was my um, reason for. I mean, that's how I got connected. I had interviewed with him to do The Outsider, actually, and I didn't get the job. And his people are reached out to my people and said, "We'll be reaching out down the road." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." That's what.
That's what they all say.
That's a nice thank you, but no thank you. But they actually did reach out, and so it was. I wanted to work with him. He's a remarkable director and collaborator, and so I got my opportunity to do that.
hmm What is it like coming on to a show that's already in its third season and has a very established look?
Well, it. I don't know about our other panelists, but this designer has a bit of an ego, and and so egotistically, it was like, how am I going to put my mark on this? I had not done um, episodic television like this before. I had done a limited series with the same director, but coming on to a show that had established sets and multiple directors was not my on the top of my list of what I had worked in features and done those primarily, and it's a different dynamic with one director and telling one single story. But Jason, I was given, I got an opportunity to meet with the writers in the writers' room, Chris Mundy, the showrunner, and I got an understanding of what was going to happen in the season. And there were several um, elements that I was going to get to, that were big elements that I was going to get to design. And so that was exciting.
Oh, well, I mean, you get to design the Missouri Belle Riverboat Casino
And
and Navarro's enormous compound, and those two sets they have a completely different look than the usual sets of the show, which is always like kind of tinted blue, but these were kind of in a red orange glow. So was that your goal joining the show, like expanding the aesthetic?
that was one of my initial conversations with Jason. Jason directed the first two episodes, the first block, which both of those environments were introduced. And I asked him from the beginning, I said, "Are we doing the blue, the blue, gray, cloudy, sun never shines in the Ozark look?" And he said, "No, I want to break away from that. It's, we have that established look." And he goes, "I want to expand what we're doing." And so that was very, very exciting for me to be able to kind of do that with the Missouri Belle and kind of introduce reds and golds, and then with the Navarro compound, that was really exciting for me. When I read the description of that, initially it is described as a rural estate, and I immediately thought of a hacienda. I had worked in Mexico extensively years ago, scouted all over the country, and when I thought of a rural estate and a drug lord, I thought, oh, he owns a hacienda, whether or not it's a family thing or whether or not he's acquired it. And so trying to find that in Atlanta was the next challenge. We shoot the show, last year, almost exclusively in Atlanta. We took a trip to Savannah for a week and shot in Savannah, about 3 hours away. But yeah, those two sets were exciting to develop and to.
Well, where did you find his hacienda then?
Well, in coming on board, I was taken to all of the existing locations, and one of them was a cemetery where Buddy's mausoleum had been set up. And it had been set up in the tombstones and in the graveyard of this big, big, huge cemetery on the south side of Atlanta. And the central kind of there, the the actual mausoleum for the cemetery is a kind of Spanish Rococo. It's been described as different styles. It was built in the 40s, but it's this huge kind of chapel walled structure. And when I saw it, it was like, boom, there it is. And there were
There's a very gothic feel to it. Like,
it Spanish, yeah, a very kind of Spanish Gothic aspect. And there was this family meeting room that I initially thought of as what was scripted as the war room, and I showed Jason that. And as we were walking around the rest of the compound, we walked into the chapel, and we both kind of looked at each other, and it was like, so we in deciding that that was where it was going to be, we cleared all of the pews and all of the elements out of the chapel and set that up as if he had, that's where his war room was. And this season, that is, I'm here in Atlanta now on the 4th season, and we just have had about a week and a half of shooting, and his world expands. So you'll get to see a little bit more of that in this next season. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that. I might get, you know,
it's a nice picture.
whatever.
Well, I'm assuming the cell where Marty is held captive was built with that spiral staircase. So what went into that design?
Again, in having worked in Mexico and familiarity with a hacienda, the first floor. The first floor of haciendas were warehouses and storage rooms, and a hacienda sometimes, I mean, a hacienda was the center of a little city. The farm or the ranch, it was like the town, and there was like, sometimes there'd be like a commissary or storerooms, and there also would be I visited some that had little they looked like torture chambers. And so my thought was, what's underneath this mausoleum? What's underneath this compound in Atlanta? And I went below, and there were rooms where stones are cut, headstones are cut, and headstones are used, and it was rough hewn. And so between what was actually on the under basement of the cemetery mausoleum and what I knew of Mexico, I designed this domed, vaulted chamber and connected it to the stairwells and the passageways that lead us back up in the actual mausoleum to the war room. So it was an exciting, it was fun. That was a fun design.
It's because there are a lot of like angles to it, like you're not expecting like the spiral staircase. It's like you just kind of see him in a corner, but then it really opens up when it goes wide, you know? So
right.
Well, in the casino, like I really love how it's kind of like a mix of elegance and like rustic, because like where they like all the tables and all the slots machines, it looks really elegant, and there's like that grand staircase, but then the dining area, this brick wall. So what were your inspirations for the casino?
In talking with Jason, and well, first of all, before I even started on the show, I knew that I was going to be working on a casino, and so I went up to, I was living outside of Nashville at the time, and I drove up to Cincinnati and met our location manager and saw a couple of casinos, a land-based casino in Cincinnati, and then we hit two different casinos that were one was on the Ohio River and one was on the Mississippi down, or it was the Mississippi River down in Missouri, and one of them was an actual riverboat from New Orleans, where I grew up, and had been taken up the river, and they trick these things out. The gambling all has to take place offshore. And this one boat had this kind of Mark Twain Victorian feel to it. And so I thought, this is what the direction I want to go with the boat. And then when I mentioned that to Jason, and I talked about my life, early life growing up in New Orleans, he said, let's just give it this kind of New Orleans theme. And so the entrance where you have the bar and the lounge area and the piano and the entrance into the casino is kind of based on the Napoleon House in the French Quarter, and aged plaster walls, and it's new. It's supposed to be new construction in the Ozarks, and so we kind of took this existing structure and kind of clad it as if it were a waterfront warehouse dock, and then the interior has that kind of, hopefully feels a little bit like that, Napoleon House bar.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. It's like the gold and like the yellows and the reds and the greens mixed in there. So, well, so you said you're working on season 4. So, are there going to be any new sets in season 4? What can you say?
There's some of the characters that we met last year we kind of figure out where they live, and then we learn some more about. I don't know really what I'm supposed to talk about.
Are we going to see some new looks, like new aesthetics, new palettes?
We go to some different places. We go back to Chicago. We go and back to where Wendy comes from, and we learn more about her, and some interesting things happen, and some interesting developments. What Bird Enterprises, there was a big gala that took place towards the end of last season, where Wendy's brother Ben attacks Marty, and so that foundation, the Bird Foundation, is spreading. It's looking for investors, looking for people, and we learn what that foundation does, and how it's going to further the Bird family, and what their relationship with Navarro is. It's a very exciting.
It sounds like it.
The writing on this, that was the thing too, is like when I had the opportunity and had the offer to work on this, and I got a handful of scripts. The writing is just incredible, and so to be on something that has the quality of the directors that they bring in, the writers that are there, it was really exciting. Kind of hop on board and up my game and make sure that I rose to the quality of my coworkers.
Well, David, can't wait to see season 4. It was great speaking with you. Thanks again for your time. I think your partner has finally left.
Thank you. I appreciate it.